OTB's The Hurling Pod.
With Bord Gáis Energy, proud sponsors of the Senior Hurling Championship.
I think this is the perfect time. We'll bring Joe Canning back out, everyone. I think he's finished watching the clips.
So there's 2 Galway and 2 Kilkenny up here now versus 1 Limerick. It's getting better.
Well, look, he lives in Limerick.
It's
so
getting better. He's a Galway man.
Well, you live in Limerick. Skehill lived in Limerick for a while. Skehill, I think Limerick is the only, and great thing is his mic is off right now, so we can't disagree. Skehill last year, I think, argued Limerick was the only team in the Lee McCarthy he doesn't hate. So, nodding there. So, in a way, we've kind of evened out the panel. We have and we have.
And Tommy Walsh back in the day did a bit of hunting in Limerick too also, I'm led to believe.
You do a bit of hunting, Tom? He doesn't remember that.
He doesn't know.
I missed that now.
All coming out now at this stage. We're going to take a look forward to the All-Ireland final, because, you know, we're kind of here to look at that as well. We will take a few questions from the floor. There are people out there with mics, so we'll do that a bit closer towards the end. But let's have a chat about how this weekend's going to go. Like, Ciarán, you can set the scene for us, because this Limerick team is on, like, the most remarkable of runs. Potentially they could join Cork and Kilkenny as the only counties to ever go 4 in a row. They could win 5 in 6 years. They've only lost against his team in 2019, 1 knockout game in this run that they've been under Ciarán Carey as well. Like, it's just an absolutely ridiculous run your team are on right now. Yeah,
phenomenal really. And, you know, and I suppose back since I started around 17 and 18, I suppose it was bubbling for a year or two. And, you know, just the whole jigsaw kind of came together at the right time with the sponsor, with the academy. And I suppose one thing that's probably worth noting, and I suppose traditionally, if there's a manager going to a particular team, they usually kind of come with his backroom team. And if my memory serves me right, the coach and the strength and conditioning were probably appointed first, and then Ciarán Carey was. So it took off. And to be fair, listen, when you're going for a 4 in a row, you know, you're talking about greatness, no different to the Kilkenny boys back in the day. And I suppose the beauty about the present crop, they're acutely aware. They're not even mentioning the 4 in a row. Very easy to mention the 4 in a row when you jump the fence. And I suppose they will be approaching it as any other All-Ireland final. And that's the beauty about them. You know, they're that composed, they're that tuned in, and you know, they don't get caught up in the hype at the 4 in a row. So from that point of view, it's fantastic.
Did you have any question marks maybe back in the Munster Championship, because they had put Kilkenny to the sword in the league final, and understandably the talk then was, you know, 4 in a row seems absolutely nailed on, and people are right on, but 5 in a row before the summer even came around. And then the games were incredibly tight. Draws, 1 and 2 point wins, the defeat against Clare. Did you have any concern about the form at that point of the year? Yeah,
without a doubt. I suppose we're accustomed to seeing a machine. Look at 2 All-Ireland finals. They absolutely destroyed Cork, destroyed Waterford. Usually finals are meant to be 50-50. So, you know, they kind of cracked that myth. And definitely at the start of the year, when you look at their games, I suppose Gillane and Tom Morrissey would have been your most probably consistent players through the whole campaign, and they were definitely underperforming, only going about 40-50%. And I suppose, like the old cliche, you know, good teams find a way how to win. And what was striking for me really was there wasn't anyone good enough to spot at number 1 and go for the juggler at number 2. And if you like, they kind of fell into an All-Ireland semi-final. And I suppose the 10 minutes before half-time and their second half performance convinced me, you know, they're coming, the machine is back, and it couldn't be coming back at a better time.
Murph, I think at this stage people are probably wondering what the crack is here, because on Monday you were on the pod talking Kilkenny up. I saw a few people on the live comments going, I can see the pain in Murphy's eyes, he's only kind of playing a role here. And then on Tuesday you went and literally played a role in Limerick at a preview night and you talked them up. So which is the real story here?
Well, I was very aware I was in a room full of 300 Limerick people, so I was there going, it's not great to try and give you a real opinion here. But no, it was funny because the Limerick Supporters Club had a night in the Woodlands down at Dare on Tuesday, and on Wednesday Eddie Brennan was going down, so I was doing the Tuesday, and I was with Davy Clark, TJ Ryan, Eve Sheehan, and I was driving down in the car, and I rang Eddie because I just said I'd never done one of these nights before, you know, in a supporters club. So I said to Eddie, do you recommend anything? And he said, oh, butter him up to fuck. He goes, So, but the funny thing was when I got in the door, like straight away, like, you know, on the first questions as well, how do you think it's going to go? And I said, oh, geez, I think Limerick are going to win by 6. I'd say handy enough, like. And the whole room turned to me and said, well, what do you want me to say? Kilkenny are going to win by 1, like, you know. So I had to try and feel it out there anyway, but I think they were wise to me fairly early on.
What do you actually think, though?
Well, look, the one thing I did say to him, and it was actually something, there's 2 things I took away from the night actually down with the Supporters Club, is exactly as Ciarán is saying there, is like they're completely grounded. They are very grounded. And what they were saying, I was chatting to the chairman of the county board, and he was just saying, look, we've had years where the feet came off the ground, we feel, coming into the finals or coming in when we were really going well. And I think back to 2013 after winning the Munster, and Clare catched them in the semi-final, and they were just flat, you know. We played them then in 2014 and bet them by a point or 2 was all, and it just seemed like that maybe they felt they got carried away, which now, at a time where they're winning so much, it just doesn't feel like they are getting carried away, you know. And the thing I said to him, they asked me the same question about the final, like, what do I think? Like, I know Kilkenny are not the favourites, and nothing will change that. And, you know, Limerick are ahead for a reason. But I was just saying to him, was like in 2018, you know, Limerick were underdogs against the Galway team. But they went up the road believing that they can win, because why do you go to an All-Ireland final believing or thinking you're going to lose? Kilkenny are, if you were to put it in on the scoreboard terms, you'd feel they might be down by 2 points, you know, as they start off, because they're just facing such a team. But having seen the way Kilkenny have played through the year, they've just been brilliant. Like, you know, lads that say whatever about the Leinster final, sorry, Skehill, lads that say whatever they want, but they still found a way to win. And it's talking like what Ciarán is saying there. They found a way to win. And then, you know, in a semi-final where they played Clare, if Clare were in this final on Sunday, people would be saying, oh, it's 60-40 or it's 50-50 because Clare can beat Limerick. But people don't reckon Kilkenny can beat Limerick. So I think Kilkenny are happy enough with that. I think they showed that the subs are good enough to go and beat them. And look, until the final whistle is blown on Sunday, look, whatever's on the scoreboard then, if Limerick win, brilliant. Like, I mean, fair play to them, congratulations. But until then, like, as a Kilkenny person, you don't stop believing that Kilkenny are going to win, because why would you?
Tommy, what was the key to kind of keeping that hunger and drive with your great Kilkenny team to keep on winning year after year? To even like have to dust yourselves off, say, after the loss against Tip, and to come back as the next best team for the next few years after that? What keeps it going?
Well, like say, my first year on the panel was 2002, and came in after the Leinster final. You get the phone call to go in, and you just can't believe it. It's your dream. You never really believe that you're going to be in there. Suddenly you're in there, and you say, I'm the happiest man in the world. I couldn't be any happier. Suddenly we bet Tipperary in the semi-final, bet Clare in the All-Ireland final, and you're like, you'd like to be on the team now. Suddenly then the following year you're on the team. You might go, okay, suddenly you want to be man of the match. Then you want, like, you're never happy. You're never satisfied. And when we start winning them All-Irelands, we would not have won what we would have won without the panel. Because, like, in 2008, we had 3 or 4 future hurler of the year sitting on the bench. That'll tell you what was awaiting. That we didn't just talk the talk, as regards say we're afraid we won't be playing. We genuinely were. Like, you know, like lads said to me, geez, you were never injured. I was often injured, but I was afraid that if I went off, I wouldn't get back onto it. So you kind of pretended you weren't injured. And you hope the boys will get you through, and lucky enough, you'd be playing with brilliant lads. You might be only barely hanging in there. But Murph, who never gave a less than, let's say, an 8 or a 9 out, and that's in training and in a match. I had Hoagie beside me, John Tennyson, Noel Hickey, JJ, Michael. Like, our midfielders were sensational to cover for the half-backs. You had Cha Fitzpatrick, one of the best hurlers, Murph ever to read the game. The ultimate man for the big day, Cha. Club and County, absolutely brilliant. Derek Ling, these are all unselfish lads that just, so every day you just want to be on the team. And with what went with it then, you're winning All-Irelands and Leinsters and leagues and Welsh Cups. And like, to win a final, and even if it's a little 7-a-side competition down the club, the feeling is unbelievable. You get a couple of days, you might get a couple of weeks out of it. Yeah. You would. And the same with winning any final. To win a final is unbelievable, and it's addictive, and you want it again and again, and the more you get, the more you want. So that's basically the hunger that we had, is just you wanted to be there. You knew you had a great chance of winning, and like, you know, Brian Cody was sensational too. Like, I was listening to Sean Oak's interview there with Joe tonight. I thought it was a brilliant, honest, and Sean Oak is a brilliant fella. I went to college with Ronan McGregor. A kind of a, you know, a mirror image of Sean Oak, really, real honest, loves the game and that. And like Sean Oak, remember he was saying about the car accident, and you know, he thought he went down to Ger Hartman down Limerick, but you know, people were wondering would he ever play again. And Dr. Khan, who was a great character, got to meet Dr. Khan a good couple of times. Typical GSA loves the game as a whole, as opposed to, and he asked Dr. Khan, what do you think? And Dr. Khan said, listen, this is bad, like, but, and I don't think many players will come back from it, but I know you will. And Cody was like that.
Yeah.
He'd make you go out, wouldn't he, Murph, thinking you're the best player on the team. And same with you, same with, say, Richie Power, same with Chaz, same with all the boys. And to be part of something like that was just unbelievable.
Sean Og was saying last night as well that like Jimmy Barry Murphy didn't have to say a whole lot to him ahead of the final in '99. It was almost like just his trust was enough. Jimmy Barry Murphy, I think the quote he said was, "I know you won't let me down." Was that the case for you lads with Cody as well, that Cody probably didn't have to say a lot to you?
Well, like Cody used to spare his words, like, you know, you'd have to do a lot now to get an excellent out of him, and you might get one every few years. Like, that's not being smart.
How many did he get? Because you say he
You
was
had
the head.
excellent.
He loved you. He loved you. No, but like, exactly like that now. Brian would, you know, you'd go out and you'd play a league match or whatever, and he'd come back in and he'd say, look, lads, that was good, but we have places to improve. And you might be after winning, you know, a big match there in Nolan Park or a away match or something, and look, lads, we're building, and, you know, you'd buy into it. And he used to choose his words very well. And, you know, coming to a semi-final or coming to 2 weeks before an All-Ireland final and you did a train session and you came off and he'd just hit you and he'd say, excellent, and he'd walk on or something, and you'd be 10 foot tall, like, you know, you'd jump out over the stand nearly at that stage, and he just used to kind of choose it like that. So, like, a lot of lads used to look at the persona of Brian and think Brian is in the dressing room, you know, breaking tables and shouting at you. And remember, you'd be in the pub after a game, you'd be down by 3 points, you go out and you'd win it by 10, and lads would say, what did Cody say to you at half time? Usually he said very little. He used to say nothing, like, at all, or he'd leave it down to the players, and he'd just say, listen, lads, you know, this is where you want to be, and so on. Or he'd leave it off to one fella to talk or whatever, and that was it. And that was, like, it's very hard to, you can't buy that, and it's very hard to teach it, to try and read the room, feel how players are feeling, and know who to give a pat in the back to and who give a kick in the arse to. Like, that's, finding that was the thing. But in fairness, we were very self-motivated, in fairness, like, and we used to be very hard on ourselves. And I think the lads that even testify to, like, any great team you'd play in, there was a time where you could put your finger on it, you could go, that was a time where we were really flying. And it was always chasing, getting back to that feeling where it just clicks. You don't have to say anything to anybody. And it's basically, you know, Brian or Micheál Donoghue or anyone could just stand back and just put the hands up, and the team just does it. So the beauty of a good manager is getting the team to the stage where they can just put the hands up and just go, the team is going to sort this here.
Is that, Joe, in some ways one of the most impressive things about this Limerick team? That so many times when they have kind of fallen into situations, I think at Tipperary a few years ago, I think even of the Galway game where there were 6 or 7 points down the last day, that team seems to be able to just kind of reset itself and work things out in game.
Yeah, but they're one of these teams that is very process driven as well. Like, if you look at the injuries that they've had over the last number of years and they still seem to win every year, if that happened to another team, it would hurt the other team way more than Limerick, because they're so process driven and they all know their role. So no matter if you're number 33 or number 2, I'd say Nicky Quaid knows exactly how Aaron Gillane wants the ball, knows exactly what he's going to do, as well as a cornerback or anything like that. They have their system of play that they actually haven't really changed too much over the last number of years. And teams still haven't really found out a way to actually beat them, because they play on their terms and they believe in their system and it's successful. But starting off is harder than, like, I'm sure when Brian Cody came in, lads found it maybe hard to kind of believe in what he done. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. When you get success, you believe in somebody a lot more. So because Limerick got success relatively quickly, like I think it was his second year in John Kiley's and Kinark and them guys, they believe straight away. And then that trust and that spirit that builds up in a team is invaluable. So for sure, like you do, Limerick have that. They've been through it with injuries, with being asked questions in Munster, you name it. But they're a very, very impressive outfit when you boil it all down. And like even Declan Hannon missing, it's not, I don't want to say it's not a huge loss. It obviously is. But to the whole team, it's just next man in. It's just somebody else comes in, you do your job, and we just go. If that was another county, and let's say Galway lost Dahi Burke, what are we? Oh, we're never going to win. We're missing our, you know. So you build that through winning as well, like.
Yeah, and like,
I think Limerick have superstars as well.
yeah,
Like, you know, they've a brilliant process and a brilliant management. They're brilliant all around. But as Joe said, and he hit the nail on the head, one player goes out, and it's no disrespect to that one player. It's just if about probably 7 other superstars. And how many teams can you say that about? Like, you look at the goalie, Nicky Quaid. He's just unbelievable. I watched him in a Munster Championship game against Clare in the puck around. He hit about 30 balls to the lad that was practicing with him. Not one of them hit the ground. Not one of them went over his head. He was out on the sideline. He was at the 65. He was at the 21. Sean Finnan, no, he's not there. He's gone. Superstar. Out in the half back line, the 3 of them. Burns, Hannon, Kyle Hayes. Like, Kyle Hayes is 1 in a million. He's 6'5". You know, he's the fitness, he is the speed, he is the hand, he is the bravery, he's tough. Out to midfield, Darragh O'Donovan is doing it, you know, year in, year out. And up front, this is where, if you forwards like they have, you have Keane Lynch, you have Gillane. Like, I was looking back to see how many of them played in the 2017 under-21 All-Ireland against Kilkenny, where they bet them, I think it was 17 points to 11. Gillane was man the match, wing forward. You know, man the match again there recently enough. Peter Casey, like, they've superstars, absolute Gerard Hegarty, Tom Morrissey. You could stay naming them, you know.
Tommy's doing a Paul Murphy. What he did last week in the Woodlands, I think, is he?
I rang Eddie as well before I came up.
But there probably is one guy that they can't do without, and that is Nicky Quaid.
Yeah, he's the one, yeah.
He's the one guy that is irreplaceable, I think, on that Limerick team. You can chop and change whatever way you want. If Nicky's missing,
Told you.
I don't think he's the best player Limerick have, and no doubt about it, he makes them tick. Like,
it's why you run the big
I
books
think-
every week, Skehill.
Well, it's and like, it's easy to look at his striking and his catching and shot stopping ability, but like, it's his decision making. So like, he's I suppose reacting to what the outfield guys are offering him, and he picks the right option every single time. And that option usually puts Limerick on the front foot. So that's if they have to go short, if they have to go to medium game, a run, etc. He picks the right option, and his timing is excellent too. So he plays, I suppose, the game at their pace. So like, if they're on a run, he'll speed it up and keep it rocking. But if they're not, obviously as we've seen, he'll slow it down and manage the grain. You know, it had no effect, okay, but he'll slow it down to a degree, and I suppose let things get restructured. I just think he's a great head about him. I know we use the term quarterback a bit when it comes to goalies, but like,
You do.
yeah, I do, yeah. We being I use that term because I suppose the degree of importance that's associated with the goalie nowadays is just huge. Like, if you go back 20 years ago, it was just keep lumping it. You're like a token position. But nowadays, first of all, you have the ball in your hand the most out of everybody. You could have it potentially 40 times in a game, 50 times. And so you've possession for your team 50 times. And it's just how he builds the play for Limerick. And combine that with his shot stopping and his overall. Have you ever seen him drop a ball? No. Like, and when he's beaten by a shot, he's beaten by a good shot. So like, he's pivotal. And I was saying beforehand, like, if he's my man of the match.
And if anything, James, actually the two of them have a serious role to play, because it's after cranking up a few notches since 2018, even the All-Ireland final, and the type of play it was that time, because you'd no team squeezing up. Now they're all squeezing up, so it's anybody that switches off, whether it is Nicky Quaid or Murphy, you know, they're going to be like snipers. So discipline is going to be huge. The two goalkeepers will have a huge part to play in it.
Remember Brian Cody, he was giving out to PJ Ryan. This is when there was no shark puck outs this time, but lads were catching on to us, hitting it long. So he was going out to PJ, you know, PJ, you're going to have to start hitting a few shark puck outs. How can I? He said, when look out with Tommy and JJ, but we're looking at the ground. Like, that time half back, the last thing you wanted was a sharp puck out.
Skehill, can I borrow your mental notebook for a second?
Okay.
Yeah, I know you've got all the stats. So top of my head, right? Hegarty in the last 3 years in finals, 1-5, 7, 2-1, I think.
2-2.
Was it 2-2? There you go. See, I knew you'd know.
And 4 points.
Yeah, not bad.
Serious goal, in fairness.
Are we expecting a huge final out of him this Sunday?
I think so. I suppose if you look at the evidence over the last 3 or 4 months, you'd say potentially not, because I think by his own admission, he probably hasn't had the best year. Now, when he's comparing years previous, he's been an awesome player, probably in the top 3 in the country on a universal basis. But like, he's a big game player. Like, he's performed in all the finals, and if you look at the stat for the semi-finals, he actually hasn't performed. Like, I think he's only scored a cumulative 5 points in 5 semi-finals, 6 points, something like that. So when you compare it to the finals, you know, he's produced the goods. So he was like, he could have been man of the match in all the finals that Limerick have played in, which is, I think he got 1 or 2. So like, he's an awesome player, and he's like, when he's going well,
you know, he's like one of these players, like I call them crowd favourites. So even when he went off against Galway the last day, he got like, I won't call it a standing ovation from Limerick, but he got a much louder applause than other players that went off. So people are behind him in Limerick because I think there's been a lot of shit talked about him in the media, you know, bullshit to be honest. And I don't know.
Left the panel 4 times this year.
He left the panel, yeah, and sure he's gone abroad, and it's just ridiculous stuff really that was just kind of for clicks and shit. But I suppose he's went through his own, you know, that's probably difficult to hear also, you know, for him and his family. So for him, I'm hoping personally, I know he won't, but that he has a good game, you know, and can justify the efforts, because you can be sure he put in the same effort this year than he has over the last 5 or 6 years. But as I said, he's a big game player, and I think we're expecting that of him again on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, Ciarán, it seems a very good decision to get Gillane back into the panel this year. Like, he's been incredible this summer. We were just marvelling last week about the goal against Galway, the way somehow he's got his back to goal, but when he hits the ground, he's actually ready to just put it into the net. He's been absolutely incredible, hasn't he?
Yeah, on fire, and very unlucky even up to now that he probably wouldn't. I forget what year it was. He was a bit unlucky in the final. He just underperformed, so he was very close to getting Hurler of the Year. And you know, if you get those awards, you know, and lucky enough to get him, it's fine. But as an individual and as a guy, you know, he's a super guy, very humble guy, takes it into his stride. There's no big deal. But you know, as Tommy said a while ago, it's about a panel, because you know the type of ball that's been put into Aaron with a load of grass. If it's Sean Finn that's on him, he'll still do the same damage. So Limerick are doing that for 4 or 5 years, and most counties are still taking it and still swallowing it and not kind of really protecting their full back line. So, and that won't change Sunday. That won't change. You know, the dogs in the street knows exactly when Dermot Byrne gets the ball, she's gone across. But yet, there appears to be always space. But it's going back to what Joe said there. Their machine, you know, every one of them individually knows exactly what to do in the system. And the system won't change Sunday. If anything, he might even tweak it even slightly to their advantage.
Tommy, Owen Cody's the other player in red hot form going into the final. 1-5 the last day. He's been kind of leading the charge along with TJ. TJ's been consistent again across the frees this year. You need a big final. It seems an obvious point, but you need a big final out with those lads. Probably the support of scoring maybe wasn't there last year, where TJ finished up with 9 frees, the top scorer in the game. Kilkenny are going to have a big performance from Owen Cody, but also the other forwards are going to have to chip in probably a bit more this year.
Yeah, they will. And Owen Cody, you know, it's strange enough to see a corner forward scoring 1-5, because, like, on average they get about probably 7, maybe 8 or 9 balls during the course of a match, because most of the game is out around the middle, and especially how far the ball travels now. They're shooting points from, you know, back at their own, probably 65, 40 even. And so only very few ball goes into a corner forward over the course of a game. So for him to score 1-5 again would be probably expecting too much out of him. But he could score, say, 2 goals or, say, 1-3. That would be more a normal scoring, I think, for a corner forward. And that's probably why, as you said, Ciarán, Aaron Gillane probably has missed out on maybe Hurler of the Year once or twice, because a corner forward doesn't get the same supply of ball. He can't get himself into the game. He's totally dependent on the guys outside. And Owen Cody is the very same. Like, I remember for last year's All-Ireland Club final, we were just saying, we were watching the game at home, we were saying Cody needs a big game, and he was brilliant in the final, you know, against Dunley, absolutely super. And that's what he does. Like, he has the winner's mentality, you know. His like, I said it before, Owen Cody's father, I remember when I was working in the buildings, pouring concrete back around 2005 during the summers. Owen Cody's father, Larry.
The breakfast roll every morning kind of
Yeah, that was that, yeah, down Carrigan's. 6 was it euros or pounds for a breakfast. And every day in that summer in Galway Betis in the semi-final. But Owen Cody's father, Larry, he was laying 1,000 blocks a day on the flat. So
What?
Yeah. 1,000 blocks a day.
You would know what that means now.
Know what that means. No.
That's a lot of blocks.
That was on the flat. It was incredible what he was doing. And the stories were going around the building saying how talented, obviously. I think he had 2 or 3 lads mixed in bed for him. And he had 2 anyway. But what I'm saying is, the work ethic is there. The talent is there. And Owen Cody...
Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's impressive. Owen Cody.
Have you his number now?
He scored 1-5.
Give me his number there, will you?
400 blocks a day is a right one, but 1,000
isn't it? 400
it is, yeah.
But Owen Cody, that's what's in him. Like, you know, the genes are there, and we be hoping that the big day doesn't get to him. It doesn't get to him, like, so we wouldn't be worried about that. He has TJ then, who's 35, 36 years of age. You know, absolutely brilliant in the semi-final again. He's now the all-time top scorer. You have Billy Ryan, who I thought had a super game the last day. So John Donnelly, you know, has been doing it for years. So, and Mossy, sure, you know, our own Mossy Keown has been one of our best players and one of Kilkenny's best player for the last couple of years.
5-7 this year, I think. Like,
yeah, Superman to get goals. You know, and goals win matches, and you probably need him to score him against Limerick. So I think Kilkenny have the forwards, but things are going to have to go right for him on the day because they're totally up against it. But the underdogs have won it in the past.
I know how these two guys are going, by the way. He said Kilkenny just about. He said Limerick going to win by a bit. Who's going to win at the weekend, Joe, and why?
I got asked this beforehand when we were doing the thing. I actually think it could be a draw. I can't. If you give me a free 50 quid, I wouldn't actually put it on anybody.
Have a bet with Skehill, you'll win 50 quid each.
If Kilkenny push up, I'm a firm believer in, and I'd be interested to hear what Ciarán has to say. Like, what way would you set up against Limerick if you were playing against your own county? To try and beat them. Yeah, you were kind of saying, would you put somebody in front of Gillane or?
Well, I suppose really, when you hear the word discipline, I suppose automatically people think it's hitting a clatter. I suppose when you're setting up for a particular system, discipline is going to be huge to implement it. And if you have a fair idea then how to counteract that, Kilkenny's discipline will have to be huge Sunday if they're going to squeeze up, hold their shape, and stop the quick puck out. Because between 5 to 7 last year, 3, 6, 8 positions, they were absolutely pulverised in those areas. You know, and that's where Limerick are going to be hitting them again Sunday. I feel if Kilkenny, if they've learned from that, and as Tommy says, you know, like, to be fair, you know, the one thing you'll always get from Kilkenny, irrespective of how they play, their values are brilliant. You know, they love the game, and they'll always empty the tank and the spare tank, always. And going back to the first 25 minutes of last year, I just felt, you know, they made an awful lot of silly mistakes, dropping balls, unforced errors, and Limerick capitalised them and hurt them with every one of them. But still at the final whistle, there's still only a puck of a ball in it. So I can see why you're saying a draw could slip in there. But if Kilkenny, 4 out of the 6 forwards come to the party, and if Lawler has a mighty game, and Blanchfield, you know, they'll definitely want 7 or 8 players standing up this year versus 2 or 3 last year. But you're right, if tactically, if they kind of put a system in place, they could derail them.
Like, my biggest thing, if Hannon isn't playing and William O'Donoghue has to still go back to centre-back, I think he's a massive loss for
midfield,
further up the field to, like, break lads up, right? He's one of these guys that you love to have him, hate to play against. Brilliant player, like. I think that's actually a negative probably for Limerick. But Blanchfield, I'd say, might be out. Like, he's having a super year, in fairness to Kilkenny, for Kilkenny. The one thing, I think Limerick are such good hurlers. Everybody talks about physicality, fitness, strength, size. The one thing they're better than everybody else is hurling. They never seem to drop a ball. As you said, last year, Kilkenny were dropping balls here and there. But my big thing is, if you push up, go man for man, don't give them an inch, you'll put them under pressure to drop that ball and turn them over. They did it in 2019. I remember very well a short puck out over. You could see TJ, I think it was John Donnelly, over near the Cusack stand, just turn lads over. And they only won that by, was it a point in the end?
Yeah.
Thanks, James. The encyclopedia.
And Joe,
but it's only small margin.
If you look at the 3 games Clare and Limerick had, and I suppose Clare has a template.
Yeah.
And they're confident with the template what they need to implement. And if Kilkenny can kind of come with a bit of that and their big guns come to the party, then we're in for a cracking final.
Yeah. Because if you sit off them any way at all around the middle of the field, they're just going to hit ball into Gillane and them boys anyway. But my thing is, if you put pressure on them out the field, you'll give the back a chance, even if there's ball going in. You'll give Hugh Lawler, you give Mikey Butler, just that small. And that's all you need, like Paul, from cornerback. All you need is a chance to even spoil the boys. But if there's lads standing up in their half-back line midfield, pinging ball in, you have no chance in the world.
We're going to give away a pair of tickets for the All-Ireland final in a minute. But Tommy, last word on you. How's the game going to go at the weekend?
Well, looking at last year, we tried to do the double. We won the football, didn't we, Murph?
And then he left.
Christy Wild from Kerry.
Deserted the panel this year.
Quote on top.
And we were beaten then in the hurling. This year, unlucky in fairness, the lads they lost the football last weekend, so hopefully Kenny will do the hurling.
Well,
I'm going to clap for myself there.
I'm not going to lie, Tommy, that is a Skehill type answer where you go, I want Kilkenny to win, good luck to them.
Skirting. Skirting board.
skeleton.
I'll never live that one down, James.
But I liked you.
I've good time for you too.
On a serious note though, where can they hurt Limerick at the weekend, Tommy?
Kilkenny. Well, listen, Joe's 100%. Like, I was listening to him on the Sunday game there all year, and you know, you can see why he was such a great player. Like, he's a great mind as well. And I just know some of the Kilkenny lads were the same. You know, the real good players, when they said something, you saw them say, why didn't I think of that? You know, that kind of a thing. And they, with Joe, like, he's right. You're at nothing laying off, because like Barry Nash in that under 21 All Ireland was corner forward. You know, he's now their corner back. Their backs are as good as their forwards with the ball, and give them the ball, they'll make mincemeat out of you. And I saw it firsthand I thought Brian Lohan and Clare, they were brilliant down the Gaelic rounds with the way they attacked, kind of high risk kind of a strategy in the first game below on the Gaelic rounds. They had a sideline ball, Limerick. And everything was, and they had only two lads inside. I'd say it was Gillane probably and Flanagan. Flanagan, I'm hoping he won't have a brilliant day Sunday, because he was quite, we'll say, the last day. But they pushed everyone up, so they left acres of space. And like, the defensive thing to do, and the defenders, let's have one lad back sitting in front of the full back line. But everyone knows you can't do that against this Limerick team, because they'll pop around the ball before you know it. Hegarty's putting the ball over the bar. So I think for Kilkenny to win it, to have to push up on the puck outs first of all, and push up on the half, or everyone, just push up man on man. If that's 14 lads up at one end of the field and one lad back, just do it. So follow men all over the field, and you're hoping then you trust your full back line. They're a good full back line. You all are Mikey Butler and young Tommy. You know, I marked young Tommy in Tullerone for years. An outstanding player. Like, you wouldn't get a puck off him. And, you know, and they mightn't see that, you know, he wouldn't be as heralded as much as the other two boys, but a fantastic player. And Hugh, we all saw what Hugh has done for the last couple of years, and same with Mikey. So listen, I think push up, and hopefully then, and listen, it's high risk and it's hard to defend like that, but I think it's the only way to do it against Limerick.
OTB's The Hurling Pod.
With Bord Gáis Energy, proud sponsors of the Senior Hurling Championship.